Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan met with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Wednesday. The conference saw the two leaders discuss critical mutual security objectives. While Turkey purchased Russian S-400 air defense systems in late 2017, it went head-to-head with Moscow during the recent Donbass war in Ukraine, when Turkey backed Ukraine against the pro-Russian separatists. In Wednesday's conference, however, Erdogan showed interest in purchasing a second batch of the S-400 defense system. Expect Turkey's relations with the US to further deteriorate as a result of Turkey's prospective arms deal with Moscow. In this context, it is highly likely that the US may impose further economic sanctions against Turkey, in addition to the penalties that were levied last year under this US foreign policy bill. While Turkey will likely be excluded from further security projects within NATO and lose leverage in decision-making, it's highly unlikely that its NATO membership status will be impacted due to Turkey's geopolitical importance. At the start of last week, German citizens went to the polls to vote in a federal parliamentary election. After serving 16 years as chancellor, Angela Merkel will step down. The leader of Merkel's center-right CDU party, Armin Laschet, was expected to assume the chancellorship. However, the center-left SPD and their candidate, Finance Minister Olaf Scholz, won 209 seats, narrowly beating Laschet's CDU-CSU coalition with 196. As a result, Merkel has expressed concern that an SPD win would threaten Germany's economy by increasing debts to the EU. Germany's debt brake rule, which limits government borrowing, will likely be temporarily curbed or suspended. Scholz has called for increased borrowing while interest rates are low to expand Germany's renewable energy sector and blunt the residual impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. As the eastern states lag behind the rest of Germany developmentally, expect Scholz's policies of increased investment to gain votes in these regions. This will likely result in Laschet attempting to lean further right in hopes of picking up more conservative votes, while the SPD looks to swing further left by forming a coalition with the Greens and Liberals. Demonstrations commemorating the third anniversary of Catalonia's independence referendum began on Sunday. Catalonia's 2017 pro-independence referendum saw Spain's constitutional court declare a bid for autonomy illegal. 9 separatist leaders were handed prison sentences of up to 12 years on charges of sedition, while Catalonia's regional president, Carles Puigdemont, went into exile abroad. However, as a gesture of goodwill, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez granted pardons to the 9 separatist leaders in June of 2021.
Guided by this constitutional spirit of forgiveness, I will propose that the cabinet approve the pardon of the 9 people convicted in the trial who are in prison.
Expect the upcoming protests to trigger calls for Puigdemont's pardon in light of Spain's ongoing extradition request from Italy, while Italy's judiciary deliberates the legality of Puigdemont's extradition within EU law. Though the demonstrations will likely continue centering their efforts on Catalonian independence, expect Sanchez to reject such a notion for the foreseeable future. For now, expect further dialogue between Spain and Catalonia on considerations for greater economic autonomy short of political independence.